Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 11 of One Step at a Time with Charlie Chen. And this time I want to talk about consumerism. And this is actually not the first recording of this video. I thought that the first recording of this video wasn't exactly the way I wanted it. So here's a retaping. And the ending message at the end of the first video, I talked about that as consumers, it is important for us to be choosy with what we consume. And I figured that I would, to quote a certain company that I used to admire, I would rather be late than putting out bad things. So here we are. Now, and just like the first video, here's a, a little something to keep us entertained while I talk about things. This one I found randomly online when I was back in college. It's a physics simulator. And let's see, is this full screen? There's the full screen button. So it's a physics simulator and you can do some really cool things with it. Like you can put, I know, if you put ice, or then you put lava on it, it changes into water. You see those blue little specks? I guess we'll just put more lava on it. And now we're making it rain. And the browns, like the brown grayish stuff at the bottom, that's the magma cooling off into stone. And then the white stuff, see, I want to say there's salt, like this. Yeah, like salt. Now, there are some other cool things that you could do with it. Like for instance, let's do a reset. Let's say you do a lot of fireworks, right? And then if you put some fire on it, oh, it popped. But if you put some magma on it, that's a lot of poppage. And then, of course, an explosion, and as you can see, a whole bunch of wind currents. Oh, I guess if I remember correctly, you can also do clouds. They fly around. Do they turn into water when they touch the top? They do! Oh. Okay, this is pretty fun. But anyway, I think at the end state of what I was doing was, I think it was ants and birds. So we put a whole bunch of ants down here. They'll crawl around, and we'll have some birds in the background. They'll fly around and they'll eat the ants. Oh my. Well, anyway, so this video, I wanted to talk about consumerism. And let's first start with a story. I think it was in the last 3 years, I visited my mom one time back in New Mexico. And I remember feeling sad because she and I are both gluttons for food. We love food. But the stuff she was eating is nowhere near the quality of food that I was eating back in California. And I felt really bad for her because, well, I wish I can help her with it and maybe have her eat better food, right? Because there's nothing wrong with like having a good time or eating a lot of food, but I guess I hope that she didn't eat junk. And but that's the thing, isn't it? Sometimes it's like the choices that we make, or maybe it's sacrifice. I don't know. But I guess what I'm trying to get at is that we as consumers, given the opportunity, I think it's important for us to choose better if it doesn't cost too much more or if it is within the same price range. And perhaps sometimes we need to look at things long term, right? Like if you're a glutton, but you eat a lot of like unhealthy food, sure, you're happy right now, but you pay in the long term with your health, right? So we have that going on. Now, on the other hand, like it or not, we're consumers of many things. Like, for instance, one of the things that, something that I'm keenly aware of is like the concept of the American dream. Like, what does it mean to be an American? I think I did a video earlier talking about that. But that's the thing. It's a message, it's a spirit, and it is to be consumed, right? Like Americans believe it, and foreigners believe it, and that's why they come to visit. Sometimes they might even migrate here and try to become an American, right? And I thought about it some more, and the American dream, I mean, the easy one to talk about would be like, having a spouse, white picket fence, having your own house with garage, your two and a half kid, good paying job, retirement, things like that, right? But that's not quite the American spirit or the dream. And I didn't quite have the word for it until I saw a video recently by someone named Professor Zhang. Now, the thing with Professor Zhang is that I don't like I listened to his lecture on YouTube with a grain of salt because at the end of the day, when someone walks the grave area between the west and the east, it's really hard to say. Like it's really hard to tell if like who do they truly serve, right? But one thing so what I do is I listen to his lectures and then I try to think for myself, essentially. And one of the things that he was talking about is that America is anti-civilization. Now, not to say that, we are anti-civilization, as in anti as an opposite. We are sort of like a mirror world in a sense that, so the way I would put it is that the real American dream isn't about the white picket fences, the houses, a good paying job, and your two and a half kid. That's not it. Even though it might manifest as that, the real American dream is that you can come to America regardless of your class, your race, your belief, as long as you're good at something, as long as you put in the effort, as long as you help people, as long as you sacrifice for good causes, you are deemed valuable in this society and you get to live in happiness with the other American, right? I think that at its core is the American dream. And that's why it feels so strange to us when we have like stories about corruption, like for instance, a particular island out in the Caribbean, right? Because think of it like things like these happen outside of America, where you can, like for instance, in China, there are so many smart people, but there aren't so many opportunities for smart people. Like smart people is a dime in a dozen, and so they struggle, right? Or for instance, like the class system in India, where whatever class you're born into, you're sort of just stuck there, right? Why does why does marrying up is even a concept, right? Because if class is real, then marrying up and marrying down becomes a thing. So you have that going on. But at the end of the day, I think Americans really just want meritocracy in its truest sense, in the sense that if you're of merit, you are valued. And yet such a phrase is often misused because it, I guess in a way it's the commodification of everything, because if everything is a commodity, then your education is a commodity, your neighbors are a commodity, and well, if everything is commodity, then do you really have merit? Because, for instance, when I was still employed, it's easier to do good to people, like to do good to help people. But now I'm unemployed. I still help people when I can, but it's increasingly feel like a drawn out cart simulation with no reward. And by cart simulation, I'm talking about like the shopping cart thing, like, oh, does the person put this stuff back, right? Does the person put the shopping cart back, because that tells a lot about the person, because there's no, like, it's not serious and there's no reward, right? But it becomes that my whole life is, at the moment anyway, becomes a game like that, where I keep on staying alive, I keep on pushing, I keep on helping people, even though I know I have value, but I don't know how to monetize it. And then it just becomes that I don't want to let myself down, I don't want to let other people down, so I keep pushing. Now, to tie it back to consumerism, then the question becomes, is this what I signed up for, right? I mean, a quick side story from my youth is after my parents divorced, I remember, so I can't really blame my mom for taking me to the US, because I enjoyed my life pretty much up until this point, living in the US. And but coming to the US wasn't even the wish that I asked her for. When I was a kid, after my parents divorced, the thing I asked my mom for to help me with was, hey mom, I want to have a father. And because that was my wish back then. And now, obviously, nobody told her that, hey, go look for a foreigner. Like, but then again, I understand. I mean, there's a stigma in China when that, single mothers looking. I mean, there's a stigma here in the US about single mothers, but in China, it's even more worse back then. And so I can understand like how she would look for a foreigner and try to spin a bad situation into a good one. I mean, I think it's the right of people to turn bugs into features, right? So I can't really fault her for that. But I don't know if she even knew what she signed up for as a consumer, right? Like like because America does a very good job of selling the American spirit. Like, you see cowboys, you see party going people, you see people who are outspoken, you see people who are confident. And that was sold to the world. Yet, here we are living in America. It just feels like we're living with regular people. There's not like heroes everywhere, right? Even though, sure, they're more inspiring people than other places in the world because they all moved here in America. But it feels like, whether it's deliberate or not, it just feels like there are so many limited seats to, like, you know how they say that I want to change the world and things like that. Well, how many world can you actually change, right? Oh my, are they gonna finish eating the ants before you even reach nope, it did reach the ground. Actually, what we're gonna do is we're gonna build some vine, and then we'll put some ants in it. Oh, and yes, this reminds me of gliders that I used to program back in computer science. Like in your intro to programming classes back in college, one of the programs you need to make is a glider, and essentially a shape and an algorithm that just copies itself. Oh, it's eating the birds. That's that's amazing. But anyway, it's eating the birds. But yeah, because like it or not, we spend our time, like even like right now, like I'm investing, like I'm consuming, I guess, life to be here, to make this video, to show what's up in my mind and what this physics engine can do. So we are all consumers slash voters with our time and what we take in. And and I guess a part of me always felt a little bit weird about the current situation is that you would think that with AI adding complexities to things, because think about it, like actually like there's so much things done with AI, but there are also so many things that need to be fixed because of AI. There's more complexity than ever, yet they are not hiring people, right? It's almost like they want to shut out the major populace while the people who are lucky to have a job figure things out so that they can come around and say we don't need you guys anymore. Like we don't need the people who don't have a job because, you know, because we were able to replace you with AI or with immigrants or whatever, right? And that's one of the things that they talked about with like how technology can be used to circumvent democracy, in the sense that like the easiest way to do it would be like, you know, you heard of the phrase vote with your wallet, right? If you like something, you buy into it, then it prospers and becomes more mainstream. And well, how can you vote with your wallet if you don't have a job or if you don't have income? You literally can't, right? And even if you did have a job, actual voting, how many people actually get to take time away from work to vote? Even though I know, yes, it's federally, you know, it's by law that people get to vote, but how many people actually assert that right? That's one. And also, on top of that, how many people who assert their right are actually educated, or are they just doing it because they can, right? And then also, on top of that, like, of the candidates that you see, how many of them are actually chosen by the people and how many are already placed there, right? Or who are allowed to win, right? There are so many different layers to this all the way up to the top that any one of them could have messed up this illusion of voting and democracy and things like that, that it is extraordinary that we can get so far. American civilization for the last 200 some years, right? And that's why, like in my video that I was in, if you look up modern day prophet Chen, and you can find Baroque cocos, channel there is an interview with me. It's that I feel like America is an experiment in the sense that what if we go against what is natural in regular civilization, where we actually reward people for being altruistic, we reward people who actually have morals, right? Yet, right now, America just feels like everywhere else in that sense. Now, of course, it can be argued that you go to any other country for a little bit, Asia, Europe, Africa, South America even, and then you come to realize that America is, better than all the other places, right? But that's how it was back in 2000s when I first came to America. But you look at our infrastructure, you look at our technology, it has become a game of how much value or how much money you can get out of it without actually updating any of this. Like, for instance, roads with potholes, it's a thing, right? And then buildings that are getting really old, that are not being replaced. I mean, those are jobs, but people just want contracts but don't actually want to do the work, right? And then, of course, you also have like in technology, right? In technology, you, at least me as a tech person, I come to realize that it's the same technology just with different terms and different payment methods, right? Like things that was once buy one and then you get to keep it for a lifetime are now just, monthly subscriptions. Things are turning into like tiered monthly subscriptions. Things are, and you think about like how many features are actually given out and how many main features are taken away just to be sold back to you. It makes me angry. Now, of course, I don't freak out angry, but it does make me unhappy, right? So we have that going on. But but that's the thing. That's the thing that was sold to us, right? Where your ingenuity, your hard work gets rewarded as opposed to other countries. And now it's doing the same thing like other countries. Then what was the point coming to America in the first place? And as for the people who already live in America, existing citizens, like for instance, like George Carlin used to say that politicians hide behind the flag, religion, and kids, right? Like protect women and kids at all costs, right? So how can they say that they're protecting the kids? Like for instance, they are like forcing real ID verification for online access as they are doing it in the name of protecting kids, right? But nobody's having kids, right? And not only nobody is having kids, like a particular island in Caribbean, the unwillingness to persecute, because it happens to be that while protecting kids is important, apparently it's not as important as protecting powerful people who have harmed the kids, right? So there's this dissonance where the expectation as a consumer to continue to be an American is that you will do things for profit, you do things for good moral reasons, and then it can be argued that there's also a certain kind of consumerism in the sense that you don't take action, right? Because it should have been taken care of. It's part of the expectation. But in reality, it's getting closer to the real world or real civilization where you can be right, but because whoever has wronged you have more money, you will never find justice. So you just have to let it go, right? Your sense of justice have no place here. So I think deep down, that's what's causing so much anguish. It's not about the young versus the old or anything like that, because the truth of the matter is, a good example of this would be like this. You know, like how you count divide by zero? Because in a math graph, when you divide by zero, let's say, oh, if you divide by one, like as you get smaller slivers of one, it goes higher, right? So your ones go higher, but then if you divide by negative one, it goes negative infinity. So it becomes a chart where it becomes almost like a star shape without the other half, right? But most of the time, when you type that in the calculator, it would just say error. Well, I think that's what's happening to people, where the things that you need to survive, the things that you need to live a good life, are siphoned up or packaged to be resold back to you. And some people just can't, like, either find an alternative lifestyle or even just to not participate complete altogether, right? So you have that going on. And that's the thing. When you don't have something but you still have to move forward, your mind bends and twists. Like, we become people that we are not. And now some people call that growth. Sometimes other people call it damage, right? And it's hard to say. And of course, just like my mom, people who are damaged want to turn it into a win. And it is in their right to do so. So I guess if we can no longer vote with our wallet, and we're moving to a world where it's the so-called attention economy, then the best we can do is at least pay with what we pay attention to, right? But anyway, this is like a more condensed, cleaner version of episode 11. I didn't want to just rant on forever, and it's just, I don't know, I want to put out something that flows better, because when I did the episode on how to combat manipulation, I think episode 9, I think that it was one of my best one yet, because I was passionate and the ideas flowed really well. And I want to make that more common for these videos so that it's not as painful to listen to, right? Anyways, I think that's good enough for now. And to close it off, we'll set everything on fire. And of course, the wind currents are just ragdolling all the birds in here. And the embers are setting. Yep. Yep. But yeah, as consumers, I feel like there's a responsibility to consume better. And it's like the saying, like, whichever wolf you feed, right, inside you. So if the goal is to have a better world, or if the goal is to find happiness, if the goal is to provide, perhaps it's not even available to consume. So you have to create. Because saying goes that evil consumes and good create. I didn't always agree with it, but in this case, perhaps. Anyways, have a great day. I'll see you guys next week.